Hey, Ralph, your chair tonight.
Not still the empty seat here.
Agenda.
First boy. Yeah, right? Yeah, I was never even near the top.
Oh, I was thinking about that. I was actually looking for this at one point. Or thinking about wanting to do this. Hi, good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barry,
Roll call.
Keith Johnson, Ralph Reese,
Here.
Mark Lodi,
Here.
Joe Michael,
Here.
Gary Guglielmetti.
Here. Okay, everyone want to take a moment and look at the county recommendations for the Glass Mountain Inn application?
Yes, we might everyone.
I guess there's an errata here with Hickey still being listed as chair.
Our first application is the public hearing is still open on the Glass Mountain application. Has anyone signed in? Has everyone signed in and would like to speak? So, would you like to come forth? And state your name and where you live, please.
Okay, my name is Helen Leslie. I live at 25 School Lane, Jamaica, which is in the property next to Miss Miller and Jeff in the back. I'm very concerned about this whole issue of the Glass Mountain Inn. There are so many things that are troubling. The troubling most important to me is why the town has allowed him to continue since the planning board meeting that ended on 30th, telling him to cease and desist and not operate this facility. It's now January. This facility has been up and running. People have been there every weekend since September. This weekend, it was a big crowd. This cannot happen where we are living because it doesn't warrant it. And I'm very upset that the town is not looking at the fact that we have town laws, zoning laws, and it seems that people who want to do whatever they want to do whatever they want to do, and then when they get caught in the quagmire of laws, they cease, they want a permit, they want a variance, when originally they should do what they're going to do in the right place, with the right permits, with the right things to open a business properly. Go into an area that allows for a commercial business. This is only the tip of the iceberg. Because even as today, this afternoon, they are advertising that they are on Airbnb, and there's a whole lot of information here, and he said, oh, they never cooked a meal, and I'm reading what catering and preparing meals available at your request. There's been a lot of things going on there that are not supposed to be going on there, and absolutely nobody, I am really wondering why the town has been aware that this is going on, why they have not come in. Should there not be some kind of repercussions? Should there not be fines? Why is the town allowing this to happen? And why is it going through our planning board? Or why is it going through the zoning? Looking for some kind of little outlet that they can come in and start this terrible thing that they want to do, because they're still talking about doing all the things they want to do. They want to have concerts, they want to this, they want to that. When they're running all over, on Mrs. Miller's property, when there's a few cars, not even like the crowd they had this weekend, they're running on her property. Now I have people that he's had there, they're up on my property, walking on the back part of my property, which is my property, that has a special thing with the railroad. I have it posted because people do not belong walking on the top of my property, ripping off branches and using them as walking sticks. So, I mean, there's a lot of problems involved in this, and it should be addressed as that kind of a problem, not 100 feet from the road. My problem is, where is the town in this? Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments to make on this application?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
State your name.
I'm Jack Morelli. Mrs. Morelli is my mom, Helen. I live on 15 Park Road up in Chichester. And some of you know me, but not from this room. I never come here because I've been here 30 years, and I've never bothered anybody, had a problem with anybody, and I never asked for anything. I moved up here from the city with the idea that I was going to fit in with my neighbors, right? I didn't move up from the city and start telling local people how to live or people that were here how to live. And neither did I shut the door behind me, right? I came up here and I lived by the golden rule, and I've been met with that in return. I've met the most wonderful people I've ever met up here. Great area. Anyway, that's my biographical information. That's who I am. And I really don't want to be here. I don't get involved in this stuff, right? But, you know, a couple of things happened at the last meeting that upset my mother, and Ms. Miller, who I know a long time, is a very generous and a gentle and a kind person. And if they were upset, I said, all right, let me figure out what's going on. So, and I watched the last meeting. I watched the on YouTube, and I saw what went on. And he's not here tonight, but lawyer Flutterfoss was here, and he was very rude and disrespectful and not very professional, and, you know, so I came down to see what's going on, and also to ask a few questions. You guys did a great job, you're fine. What's the story? I'm confused. Is the place zoned residential or commercial? How is it zoned? What is allowed to be done there?
Zoned residential.
Zoned residential, okay? So how can it be that he's even advertising this place as a hotel and an event space, and you're even considering doing him a favor and granting even more things to him, you know? If I tried to do that, I wouldn't expect to do that and not upset my neighbors. I wouldn't try to do it, you know? And if I was going to do that, I would have bought a hotel and an event space, right? Secondly, if that was my plan, I would have made sure I was going to be able to get the permits and do everything properly beforehand, right? Now, I guess what I'm wondering is, what does he want tonight? He just wants a variance, right? That's the instrument with which the board has. That's to grant him what he wants. Is a variance, and what is that variance for?
He's actually requesting a 100-foot variance. The way it's stipulated now with the situation where he has now, what are the auspices that falls under, Warren?
We are looking at vacation colony, cabin and cottage developments.
Okay, which requires a 100-foot setback from his street.
Okay, so he wants this variance because he needs the room to build more cottage space to rent.
No,
or more parking.
That's not accurate.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to find out. I just wonder what
Now this is only our one small portion of this whole puzzle. The vast majority of this lies with the planning board. This is just the first step in the process.
Right.
It's really in the jurisdiction of the planning board, the vast majority of this case.
But how does the process even begin if he's already advertising this and has a sophisticated website with, you know, digital booking and drop down, and he's on TripAdvisor, all these other things? How is that even possible if the thing is zoned residential to start with? How are you even considering it?
Well, there's a long history, in that situation, there's a long history of, beginning with short-term rentals, and then for many, many years, it was used as long-term rentals.
The short answer is rentals are allowed under residential zoning.
Right, but residential, like long-term, they become residents. There's right? Not transient. Right? there's a difference between, like if you have a cabin on your property and you rent it out, and you even need permits and you're okay to do that, to a long-term renter, right? Like the Dragons used to do, right? That the person that lived there became residents of the area. It wasn't somebody different every weekend, and it wasn't concerts and weddings and, right? There was a huge difference. So it's either zoned for that.
Let's not have a crosstalk.
It's either zoned for that or it's not. So, and then if it's not zoned for that, how do you even begin considering?
I'm going to read the definition.
So he's applying for vacation colony, cabin and cottage developments, available for rent to transients in the R5, R3, R1.5, and HR, all residential districts. And then there are stipulations for it. So what he's applying for is specifically set up to be in those districts with the approval of the planning board.
Okay.
It's a special permit from the planning board. But in order for it to, one of the stipulations, there's 5. The first 4 he met. The 5th one is that you can't have structures closer than 100 feet to the lot line. So
Right.
that sent it from planning to zoning.
Okay.
Now, as far as the construction, there's only, he's only allowed 2 such dwelling units, which he has. He has the main building and he has a cottage. So he's only allowed 2 dwelling units per acre. So they can't construct any more buildings on
Okay.
the property. So we're at the maximum density as far as structure.
So he needs this room for parking.
The parking has to come up with a plan. That's part of,
So why does he need what he's asking for you tonight?
Because that's from the request of the planning board that he come here to appeal for a variance to at least clear the hurdle of 100 feet setback.
All right, let me ask you a question. You have all your regulations and everything, right? Is that what the blue book is?
Yep.
Are there definitions in there?
Yeah.
Do?
Yes, there are.
Could you read the definition of a variance for me? Because I'm not sure I know what it is.
I'm not sure I have that specific one flagged. We don't have it.
Where's the definition section?
Wait a second.
Okay, a variance. A modification of the use and/or area
And he's applying for a variance for an area, right?
Excuse me?
He's applying for an area variance.
For an area variance, yeah.
So it's included in that definition. You said use and area included in that definition.
It is true.
Okay.
Okay. A modification of the use and/or area and bulk regulations of this chapter in an individual case where, due to the specific facts and conditions peculiar to a particular property, literal application and strict enforcement would result in undue and unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty that would deprive the owner of reasonable use of the land or structures.
Okay.
Such unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty shall not be constructed to include mere inconvenience or desire to make more money.
So you have to prove that the reason he wants this has nothing to do with the fact that he's looking to make more money. He's looking to use this property as a business, and he needs a change. He needs a variance in order to utilize the property to its best ability for him to make more money. So if this has got nothing, so he has to prove that this has nothing to do with his business and his website and his hotel, nothing to do with it. Otherwise, you can't grant the variance because they saved it for last. This can't be granted if the hardship is to make more money. It can't be for a business.
It also, it does allow the provision to receive a reasonable return on his property.
And how long has this property stood?
That property?
Yeah.
How long is the property or the building?
It's been there a long time without this variance, and everybody, and the previous people, was a reasonable return. He's looking to grow. He's looking to grow this thing, right? He wants the variance because he's looking to grow this thing. He wants to park more cars. He wants to make more use of the area involved on his property. And you can't grant the variance if it's just to make him more money.
Wasn't the previous owner Pauline Schlosser, if I'm not mistaken?
I'm not sure.
That's correct.
Okay, and she ran a kind of a hair salon out of that property,
Okay,
which would also be a business usage.
sure. Did she apply for a variance to cut more hair?
No.
Okay then. Not really obliged.
She applied for a variance to actually operate a hair salon. He's applying for a variance to operate his business. He's not trying to grow his business, he's trying to operate his business.
Okay, but whether or not that variance granted her was appropriately granted, this is a case unto itself. And the definition you just read me says, the exclamation point on the end of that very long definition was, not to make more money.
Are you opposed to him making any money?
I'm not opposed to him making any money. I just want to know if, if we're all equal, or if some people are more equal than others. And, a lot of people feel like, oh, he's got to make money. He wants to make money. He's a nice young guy. They say, got a family, wants to make money. That's fine, right? He can make enough money with it the way it was used in the past. I guess I don't see a lot of empathy. The problem, I got involved because I didn't see a lot of empathy for the people that are already there. Everybody's worried about him making more money. My folks worked their whole lives. We grew up in crowded row housing in South Brooklyn. My father got up every morning at 4 in the morning and went to Newark, New Jersey to work in a packing factory, right? Meat packing. My mother got up and drove handicapped kids to school in all kinds of weather. They saved their money with two things in mind. Put my brother and I through school and retired to someplace quiet out of that neighborhood, right? And everybody says, oh, change is good. We saw many changes in that neighborhood over the years. None of them were good. And they saved their money and they worked those jobs and they got up at those hours to buy a place, someplace quiet, up here in the mountains. They didn't buy next to a hotel on purpose. They bought in a residential area so that they could sit on their back porch, right? And not have to hear wedding music going all night long and people hooting and hollering.
Let me interrupt you.
Well, so
that is all you're saying is
so I'm asking, where's the empathy for them?
All you're mentioning has to do with the planning board's entities and how the planning board decides what is allowable and what's not allowable and how that is regulated on each property. We are specifically looking at a variance for a setback.
Yeah, but there needs to be a reason for that variance, for that setback, or you're feeding into what is taking place, right?
That's your opinion.
Right, you're continuing to, right, if this is going to grow and become this thing, you're feeding this instead of saying, all right, go back to square one and do it right from the beginning, right?
Well, he is trying to do it right. He's trying to do
So,
it.
and if you grant the variance, and the whole reason is that it's for him to make more money, then you're exposed, right? Then you've granted a variance for a reason that is technically, by your own definition, not allowed.
In your opinion, perhaps that is
My opinion, you read it to me.
What is? Okay.
Anyway, okay, fine. I get, you can do what you can. Honestly, you obviously can do whatever you're going to do, right? But I think that's a strong point that needs to be considered before you move forward. All right? And I really think that there needs to be also empathy for the people, that are affected by this adversely. It's not a victimless thing, and isn't it nice? There's a nice guy should be able to make some money. There's rules for a reason. And we don't put our thumb on this. We don't put our elbow on the scale. Some people are not more equal than others. What the book says is what we should go by. That's all I'm asking. I don't begrudge anybody making a living. But the other thing too is that he was told by the planning board to cease and desist, and he hasn't.
That's something you should take up with our code enforcement officer. This is not the venue for that.
But the thing is that if somebody's supposed to be doing something and they got their finger in your eye up to the first knuckle, how deep does it go before you say, okay, I see what's going on here? To the hilt?
Okay.
All right. Okay. So that's that. Anyway, I said my piece. I think I found out what's going on. And I'll let you guys continue and tell me what you're going to do. How you're going to proceed.
Warren or whoever can answer, is it in fact true that there was a cease and desist order? There was Mr. Bailey's.
There was actually, the board did not rule on that.
The board requested that he remove all of the information regarding the large venues from the website. that you apply for variances, well, not variance, you apply for a special permit. And in the process of special permit is why it's now brought to your attention here for the area variance. So ultimately, like Ralph said, it's your determination whether you grant the variance. You do not control the end game of the planning board. They set the stipulations as to what can and cannot happen with regards to what he wants to do on the property. So they can make the stipulations when they issue their special permit, that this is what you're applying for to operate transient rentals. Any large venue or anything like that is not permitted. You have to come back and present another plan for that. But that all goes to the planning board. So.
And you were telling us under the zoning reg that we're interpreting this under that this is in fact a legal rental, are you not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
When I reviewed this with the planning board, we came up with the density, the buildings, the usage, the zoning, it's in a residential, but this all fits in there with that one stipulation about the setback.
Right.
Okay? The county reviewed it, so they made their determinations that it is within our zoning, that it's allowable with those regards.
Okay, now I think what they're actually asking for is a fenced screen between.
Their recommendation, which is what, they do their, they recommend, basically they're recommending that what we have in our code.
Okay.
As far as that.
I would just like to read one more thing.
Go ahead, Bob, you want to say something?
I just would like to read this. This is the planning board meeting minutes, and this is at the end. Building inspector, I want to say your last name, T-U-T,
Okay.
made it clear to the board of the audience that Airbnb is a rental of entire property with the initial concept being that of a bed and breakfast. To rent the entire property is different than to rent a portion of that property. It is now being operated as a business. Whether you are renting directly or through B&B, still renting part of the house is not the entire thing. According to zoning laws, you must have a permit to rent those rooms. And then underline it says they should not be renting portions of their property through Airbnb according to current town and zoning laws. If they like to rent a portion of that property, whether it is an apartment, a temporary residential, special permits are required and the zoning district addressed. If they intend on staying open, they should be renting until they should not be renting until the planning board makes a decision or permits have been issued. So nothing should be done. There should have been no renting of property, no making of business since September. It is January.
Are there any other correspondence regarding this? No? I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Waiting for you.
Board member Rolfe?
Yes.
Reese?
What about the motion?
To close.
Yeah. Board member Lodi?
Yes.
Board member Michaels?
Yes.
Board member Guglielmetti?
Yes.
Now you have to vote on the.
Yes. I know. Okay. Any comments from the board members?
I think based on past usage and the interpretation of the law, I think we're obligated to grant this variance. I think the issues that you guys address, which I totally understand are completely germane, belong in the planning board, not for us. I don't think we can legally prevent the activities that via the zoning laws.
So the place is zoned for transient use?
Okay, wait, we're not gonna have a conversation, the public hearing is over, we're not gonna continue the conversation.
Well, no, he addressed me directly.
No, one other comment is we don't really have a succinct zoning law in place for this Airbnb phenomena, which we discussed at depth, I think, 2 meetings ago.
So your rule is on past use, that a woman had one person come in and have her hair done and leave, and she had 2 apartments she rented to full-time people for years?
No, sir. No, I mean, sir. No, ma'am, we're ruling on interpretation of the law.
Okay, so he said it's not to be used as an Airbnb, right, this gentleman here?
Guys, we're not going to digress. I'm sorry, we're going to move along with this.
All right, well, you were explaining it to me, and it was just getting more confusing than...
Okay.
Clear.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the application for variance as submitted.
I'll second.
Board Member Reese,
Yes.
Board Member Lodi,
Yes.
Board Member Michaels,
Yes.
Board Member Hugometti.
I abstain.
No, I believe the secret ruling on this will be done by the planning board, since that was the first board that they actually applied to, so we do not make the secret determination in this case. So
No,
there'll be no
they're
vote on
planning
that.
will be lead agents.
Hmm?
Planning board will be
Yeah.
lead agents.
What about the provision to screen
That,
simply recommendation?
that's simply a recommendation on my part. Now, I actually went to look at the property the other day, and I met with, yesterday, met with Jeff to talk about that possibility, and it turns out that his driveway is basically his property line. So it's really going to be up to his neighbors if they choose to screen out what occurs there, what is occurring there. That's their option. That's my determination on that. There is no room for him along that whole side to do anything because his driveway is his property line. So, and this is, the county's recommendation is just a recommendation.
Can you tell us what the variance is that he got? To do what?
It's to allow him to operate his business within 100 feet of the roadway.
So you're giving him permission to operate business?
No. We're just
Just
giving
to
him
expand his use of it.
No, I don't know. No. No, this, as again, this is really, you need to go to speak to people at the planning board. That's the next step. It goes back to the planning board, and they make all these determinations.
Well, again, one of the things I didn't understand, and I just wanted cleared up, was it zoned for transient use or not?
Yes.
Yes, it is zoned for transient use.
So we're giving them a variance to allow for legal use. If the planning board should decide that it's not legal use, then he has to cease and desist, is that correct?
Correct.
So you are giving him permission to have a transient business?
No.
He
It always
has
has
permission.
It always had, he always has
He always
had
has.
permission for transient
He
business to
hasn't
do
got that
rental.
permission. He didn't get that from the planning board. He was told it's not.
Well,
He got that from the zoning, interpretation of the zoning regulations. Those
So
regulations
you
already
override the
exist.
planning board then?
no, we're not overriding that. No.
Well, you just said you gave him permission to run a business.
No, we're simply, no,
That's not what we said.
we're simply issuing him a variance to have a business within 100 feet of the roadway, which is what the planning board requested, requested our determination. They
But he doesn't
requested-
have a business according to the planning board.
I don't know. We're not the planning board. I don't know.
You
The inspector knows all about it, he's been up there.
just read an excerpt that indicated he did have a business.
But that,
You just read an excerpt from the minutes of the planning board meeting that indicated that he did have a business.
that he doesn't
And it
have,
was the desist.
that he does not have a business.
Well, I don't think we can enforce the cease and desist order, that's another issue.
No, but again,
Yeah, but you're
my
giving-
analogy of if somebody's finger is in your eye, how far do you let him push it in?
But
You let him push it in a little further tonight.
You're telling him he can have a business, that was the whole idea of the variances, so he can have a business.
Yes, Warren?
This all now goes
Yeah.
to the planning board, so
Yeah.
any
Guys, we
future
keep saying,
commentary on
this,
this
you
has
really
to
need to
go
address the planning board in regards to
back
this.
to the planning board, and that can, and further commentary can be addressed at that time.
There will be a public hearing to the planning board.
Shouldn't have been that the planning board ruled on this and then come to the zoning board?
No.
Not the zoning board giving him permission to have a business, then go back to the planning board to see if he can have a business? Certainly seems like it's not clear.
Is it a self-imposed hardship? What's the hardship?
I'm sorry, we've already made a
Yeah, I bet you have.
We've already made a determination on
Okay.
this. We can keep this around for hours and hours.
Right,
but,
exactly.
yeah.
All right, no, okay.
So,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So is all of this void if you go back and see that the planning board actually did tell them to stop running the business?
I don't know.
No.
At that point.
No?
Oh, is that your opinion? Or is that a legal opinion?
What?
So if the planning board told them to stop running a business,
It
right?
doesn't stop them from applying for a variance.
Okay.
Variance
Thank
deals
you.
with the situation of the building